Now, the subhead of this is the inside story of how Trump lost, and we have to get to this, but you have one of the more interesting blurbs on the book that I had to ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
You have a blurb from Donald Trump, 45th President of the United States, who says of you, Michael, he's one of the tough ones, but such beautiful hair. So what's that?
Well, that is really the kind of heart of the relationship between Donald Trump and I. He appreciates. I work for the Wall Street Journal. He appreciates the Journal, and I've interviewed him in Trump Tower, on Air Force One, and in the Oval Office. But what really matters to him is my hair. And at one point, he actually. You remember when Sean Spicer was having some trouble and they were trying to replace him. And we were talking to him on the president on Air Force One. And he said, well, I can have anyone I want work in that job. I have the pick of the litter. And my eyebrows kind of furled, and Trump can pick up on, he reads a room better than anyone. Right. And he swirled around to me and said, what, you disagree? He says, you would take that job. I said, no, Mr. President, I would not take that job. And he looked at me and said, well, with that hair, you need to be the press secretary. And so it's come up in several instances. And then, we can talk about it a little bit more if you want to, but he's attacked my book. He singled out this book specifically several times now. And, I kind of just count my blessings that he's not disparaging my hair, because then we know something's really wrong. So
yeah, that would be the end of a beautiful relationship. So did I notice that you have 6 younger sisters?
Yes, that's right. I am.
So does that help you growing up in a family like that? Does that help you cover the White House? I mean, is that you have experience managing chaos or surviving it? I'm just wondering. That seemed like an unusual little detail.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big family for sure. I think it's helped me in so many different aspects of my life, honestly. You sort of figure out how to make your voice heard, when to, kind of what battles to pick, what not, how to, and all those different dynamics. Exactly. That's exactly right. How to operate within a group, and keep everybody happy. So, yes, definitely. Covering the Trump White House was more because I had to babysit a lot of my sisters. I was the oldest of 7.
I see.
So that
was
particularly
preparation.
Correct. Yeah.
See, I'm in awe of that, being an only child myself. And by the way, it was only like 10 minutes ago that I realized that you're married to Ashley Parker, who's the White House bureau chief for the Washington Post. So you guys don't have any shortage of things to talk about, do you?
No, that's right. In fact, that's how most people know me, as Ashley Parker's husband, which is great. I mean, she's wonderful. She's the best. We can talk about all the stuff in politics in Washington. She's, much better reporter and writer than me. She's my best editor, my best advisor, my best friend. I'm very, very lucky.
Well, it's funny. I saw on her Twitter feed she had your very young children posing with copies of your book, but I didn't realize it was your children. I thought, hey, this is really nice for the Washington Post reporter to be really promoting a book by a Wall Street. What a nice person Ashley Parker is, which of course she is. So
that Midwestern optimism is coming out there, Charlie.
So we are Midwesterners. So let's talk about how these books come together, because there's a number of them that are out, and they are all incredibly sourced. Part of the fascination of reading these stories is to realize that you are in the room because people in the room decided to share this with you. And you have an interesting note right near the beginning of the book where you talk about who talked to you, who was willing to talk to you, and that you understand that many of them give interviews to authors because they're being protective, because they know that they have to tell the story first, their version, to protect themselves against stories that other people might tell. I mean, that's part of the dynamic of this, isn't it? Yeah,
that's right. I mean, there are it's interesting. A lot of colleagues in this business think it's in one sense easy to cover an administration like Trump because there are so many people willing to talk, and so many ways into the administration. But in a lot of ways, it makes it harder because there is no, or I should say, just as hard as covering a more traditional administration, because there is no sort of single voice, right? There usually in an Obama administration or a George W. Bush administration, if they had a meeting, there usually aren't a dozen different versions of that meeting. from people coming out of it. But so the only real way to get to the truth, you can have a source. You can talk to, is talking to every person you can. And you brought up Ashley and her good reporting. She's kind of trademarked these lines in her stories about, the dozens of people that they talk to, administration officials, Republicans, Trump friends. And that's the only way to even begin feeling comfortable with what actually happened inside the room, whether it's the Trump campaign, inside the inside the Oval Office, or Mar-a-Lago or Bedminster.
So you set out to write this book about the campaign, which turned out to be very, very different than what anyone expected, including you. And that whole year, and I guess part of the delight of reading the book is we know what happened, but just to sit back and realize all the things that happened in 1 year, how Donald Trump became the first incumbent in 3 decades to lose re-election and the only one whose defeat culminated in a violent insurrection, as you write. One thing that strikes me about the book is that Donald Trump, and you tell me whether I'm right about this, that Donald Trump doesn't believe, one of the reasons why he believes the big lie or pushes the big lies is that he doesn't believe, he has a hard time believing that he lost the election because he couldn't believe that he could lose to Joe Biden. He just could not, and this comes up again and again, including, his comments, you have comments that he made about Joe Biden's bad facelift. I mean, he was obsessed with the fact that I cannot lose to this guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a good question, and one I struggled with during covering the administration and writing the book. I mean, I don't have to tell you. I mean, he was impeached. Be clear here, the first time because he was going after Joe Biden, right? I mean, it was a pursuit of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden that trying to damage him politically. That led to his first impeachment, in the first place. So it's hard for me to understand how he gets to a place just a few months later where he's, dismissing Joe Biden as a quote unquote mental retard in the Oval Office. I mean, he interrupted a policy meeting in the Oval Office for a total non sequitur about that he couldn't believe he could be losing to a mental retard in the polls like that. I don't know how much it was about Joe Biden. I don't know if there's anyone in the Democratic field he would have felt like, he deserved to lose to. So I think this was a way of him ultimately talking himself into the place we got by January 6th, which is what really he'd been telling the country for 5 years, right? That that Trump was never wrong. No other politicians were to be believed. The courts were not right. He would always be acquitted, and he would never fade away.